A few years ago, I moved to a small rural community. I grew up in a fairly large city and was never one for that kind of life. It was loud and chaotic all the time. As soon as I was old enough and could afford it on my own, I moved away. The town I moved to is very small. The surrounding forests and mountains are beautiful, no matter what season of the year it is. It almost blows my mind that this little town isn't more of a tourist trap in the summer and fall. The quiet little town doesn't have much. A few restaurants, a couple bars, a gas station which also does repairs, one supermarket, a small police station, and that's basically it. Even the closest Walmart is like an hour away. My little paradise of a town is really off the grid, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I've been living in this town for over 3 years now, and other than one horrible day, it's been great. But even peaceful towns can sometimes have dark secrets. When I first moved to town, I got a part-time job at the local supermarket. I used to manage one of the grocery store chains in my hometown, so I had a lot of experience. I would go in first thing in the morning and unload the trucks and stock the shelves of the small store. The owner offered a management position, but I turned him down. I only wanted to work part-time, basically so I could have a little extra spending money and an excuse to get out of the house. I have a part-time job that I do online as well, and that's the bulk of my income. I wanted as much free time as I could possibly afford so I could hike and fish as much as possible. There's so many woodlands in this area that it would take me a lifetime to hike them all. Of course, I'm up for the challenge. So every day off, rain or shine, I would find a new area to hike, and I would head into the woods for the entire day. It didn't take me long to start this new lifestyle. Almost immediately after moving into town, I started hitting the trails and trying to meet the locals. At night, I would grab a bite to eat in town, and I learned quickly that everyone in the area was unexpectedly pleasant. Everyone except one. I'm referring to a man named Hector. I should say that Hector wasn't mean or rude. He was just strange, like on another planet strange. The first time I met Hector, I was just arriving at work a little after 5 in the morning, and he ran up to my car window as I was getting out of the car. Where I'm from, if someone does this, you punch them in the face before they can hit you, but not here. I put my hands up in a defensive position and started yelling at him. He screamed in my face and skipped away, legitimately skipped. As I was standing there confused out of my mind, one of my coworkers came up to me and told me that his name is Hector and he's harmless. Apparently, he's lived in or near town for a long time, but nobody knows exactly where he lives. Everyone assumes he's homeless and probably lives under a bridge somewhere. They just leave him alone and let him wander around because he isn't hurting anybody. It was alarming for him to scream in my face, but if everyone in town claimed he was harmless, then I just went along with it. For the next few weeks, I would see Hector everywhere. It didn't matter if I was going to work at the crack of dawn or leaving the bar after 11. I would see him just wandering the streets. He was a short guy, but strong looking. He was built like an ox. He couldn't have been taller than 5'3" at most. He was always wearing the stained white tank top and wore royal blue pants. I couldn't tell if they were jeans or sweatpants. He had a long, dirty gray beard, and his hair was in a ponytail, even though he was bald on the top of his head. And even with this strange appearance, the most notable thing about Hector was the skipping. Every time you'd see him moving, he'd skip. His blissful ignorance was almost envious sometimes. One morning when I was driving to work, I saw Hector standing on the corner facing the opposite direction of my car. As I was approaching the intersection, I saw him waving to someone. When I passed the intersection, I could see now that he wasn't waving to anyone. He started talking to someone and looked very animated, even though nobody was there. I just continued driving and minding my business. Honestly, it's not that weird for someone in Hector's position to talk to themselves, especially if they're not a danger to themselves or others. I couldn't care less what he was doing. That next weekend, I hit the woods on my day off. I spent a few hours hiking a part of the forest I hadn't been to yet. While I was deep in the forest, I thought I could hear the sound of a voice echoing through the trees. Hearing any kind of voice this deep in the woods is alarming. Remember, this isn't like a trail you'd find at a park or something. This is just pure wilderness, so any voice would cause you to feel a little unnerved. I know it's sketchy, but I wanted to know the source of the voice. Instead of retreating back into the woods and away from the voices, I started to move toward the voices slowly. As I got closer to the voices, I could tell that one of them sounded like it was in distress. I grabbed my pocket knife just in case and continued to sneak as quietly as I could. The voices were just behind the thick grouping of trees that was directly in front of me. When I peeked from behind the trees, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It wasn't multiple voices. It was Hector. Just Hector. He was talking to himself and changing his voice. One of the voices was angry and belittling, calling him a coward, among some other not very nice things. Then, like the snap of a finger, the angry voice started to weep. He was begging for forgiveness. One of the most terrifying things is that each voice sounded completely different. I decided to stay hidden behind the tree. I wasn't about to engage with him. While I was hiding behind the tree, the angry voice came back, and without even looking, he screamed, "He's hiding behind the tree. This time you can't let him get away." I watched Hector get up and looked directly at me through the trees. For the first time since I had met Hector, I could see genuine rage in his eyes. I took a step back from the trees, trying to process what was happening. I didn't have long because right at that moment, Hector charged at me, screaming. He wasn't skipping anymore, he was sprinting, and he was much faster than I thought he would be. I continued running back toward the direction of where I had started the hike. For a while, I could hear Hector right on my tail. He kept screaming that I was not going to get out of the forest alive. He would laugh and then scream. Every few minutes, it sounded like he was right behind me, about to grab me, but he never did. Eventually, I didn't hear anything. I finally made it back to where I started, and I instantly ducked down and looked all around the woods. Hector was nowhere to be found. I got to town and went to the local police station and told them all about Hector. The sheriff almost didn't believe me. She couldn't imagine Hector acting with such anger and rage. I told her roughly the area of the woods I was in, and she looked like she turned white as a ghost. She couldn't believe Hector was out there for starters. This was several hours worth of hiking into the woods, but she told me that isn't even the most disturbing part. Right around the area in the woods I was describing, she told me they found the remains of one of the local men from town years ago. She told me that it was disturbing and saddening for the entire community. They never found out who did it, and it's one of the only dark blemishes on an otherwise peaceful town. She started to wonder if maybe Hector had something to do with the horrible crime. She was trying to remember exactly when Hector started appearing in the town. She said her memory was fuzzy, but she was pretty sure that Hector started showing up in town around the time they found the remains. She asked if I could take her to the exact location because she wanted to bring Hector in for questioning. At the very least, she wanted to know why he attacked me and if it was safe for him to still be wandering around. We basically ran to the area in the woods, but Hector was gone. Our sheriff, who was now retired, started to get emotional because this was almost the exact same spot they found the remains all those years ago. They never caught Hector. Nobody in town ever saw him again. It's like he just vanished in the woods that day. I still go out and hike every chance I get, and every time I go, I still expect Hector to jump out of the trees and continue chasing me. I always have my knife on me just in case. Sometimes, even the most harmless-looking people can cause the most damage. I have no idea if Hector was responsible for that horrible crime, but after how I saw him acting in the woods, it wouldn't surprise me. I remember asking why Hector wasn't questioned when they found the remains, and nobody could really give me a solid answer. Now that I've lived here for a few years, I assume it's because these people just aren't equipped to deal with crimes of that magnitude. I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming there wasn't a lengthy investigation. After writing and reliving this, I still can't believe this happened. It still feels surreal to me. My advice to anyone who hears this is to always pay attention, because you never know what evil could be on the inside of someone. even someone as harmless and seemingly happy as Hector appeared to be. I'm writing this story while it's still fresh in my head. My girlfriend Katie and I just got back from what was supposed to be a multiple-day hiking trip. The reason I'm writing this down is that I'm not exactly sure what happened to us. The more I think about it, the more I start to spiral down a rabbit hole of insane thoughts. 3 days ago, we started this long, planned-out hike in the mountains of upstate New York. If anyone's familiar with that area, they'll know just how beautiful it is. When people outside of New York State think about New York, they tend to only think about the city, but there's so much more to this state. I would argue that the nature here in New York is vastly underrated. Our planned trip was supposed to last 4 days and 3 nights, a chance to get off the grid and just be alone with each other and nature. We love to hike and be outdoors. We've hiked forests and mountains all over the country, so this trip wasn't anything out of the ordinary. The first day went smoothly. Other than some patches of rain, we didn't have any other issues. We set up a tent, ate some food, and turned in for bed so we could get an early start on our hike tomorrow morning. During the night, I woke up and noticed that Katie was sitting up. She looked scared, which is out of character for her. I asked her if she was okay, and she sort of tripped over her words at first. Eventually, she got the words out. She told me that she heard something outside the tent, something that freaked her out. Initially, I thought it could have been an animal like a deer because they're everywhere up here, but that wouldn't have caused her to be as freaked out as she was. I told her I'd take a look, and as I reached for the zipper inside the tent, she gasped and grabbed my hand. She begged me not to open it. I still had my hand on the zipper looking at Katie, trying to figure out what could have scared her this much. My thought at the time was that she might have had a bad dream and was still in that half-dream state. While I was contemplating what to do next, I watched Katie freeze. This time, I heard it as well. Outside the tent, I swear I could hear someone walking around. We both sat quietly and listened to the footsteps walking around outside. The way the footsteps sounded, it was clearly not an animal. Whoever was outside just kept walking around the tent. Every couple of minutes, the person would giggle. She had a high-pitched laugh. Neither one of us had any idea what to do. It may have been stupid, but we decided our best course of action was just to stay put until dawn and hope that whoever was outside the tent was gone. I'm not sure exactly how long she was outside the tent, but eventually, the sound of her walking around stopped. For a few hours, we heard nothing except the quiet forest. Usually, this sound is our favorite thing in the world, but on that night, the quiet forest had us on edge. At dawn, I slowly left the tent. Thankfully, we were alone. I felt relief for about 5 seconds. As soon as I fully left the tent, I noticed that there were strange rocks all over our little campsite. Rocks I know were not there the night before. These rocks were also stacked and arranged strangely. Katie was ready to pack up and go home, but the idiot that I am convinced her to keep going ahead with our planned hike. The events of the previous night were horrible, but I was confident that it had to be someone messing with us. I couldn't come up with any other rational explanation. The entire day, Katie kept looking over her shoulder. She was convinced we were being followed. Every time I would stop and look around, I wouldn't see anything. We only hiked for half the day. Katie was all done, and I didn't blame her. We set up our campsite and got ready for the evening. Katie begged me to head back tomorrow. If we left at dawn and basically jogged, we could most likely cover all the ground for the last day and a half. The whole point of these hikes is to enjoy them, and she was not enjoying herself. That night, I was sure she wasn't going to be able to sleep. I was wrong. She must have been exhausted. She passed out as soon as her head hit the pillow. It took me a while, but I finally started to get sleepy. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I could hear someone whisper. It jolted me awake. I looked next to me in the tent to see if Katie was awake. I thought that maybe she whispered something to me, but she was still out like a light. Then I heard the whisper again. It was a soft female voice, and she said, "Come outside, Artie." I couldn't believe I just heard my name. Then a different woman's voice said, "Yeah, Artie, please come outside, we're waiting." I didn't react. I didn't do anything except sit completely still. Katie was still asleep, and I didn't know if I should wake her up and cause a panic, or just ignore this like the previous night. They didn't whisper anymore, but I could hear them running around the tent. It wasn't like the previous night when they were walking. They were for sure running now. To make things worse, while they were running, they started to laugh uncontrollably. These high-pitched laughs were the worst thing I've ever heard. It was like they were cackling. During the laughing, one of the voices got much deeper and louder, and she shouted, "Come outside now." With the loud voices and all the activity outside the tent, Katie was now awake. She instantly panicked and wanted to know what was going on. I can't imagine how disoriented she must have been waking up to screaming and laughing outside the tent. I didn't even have a few seconds to explain to her what was going on, because these women outside started messing with the tent, almost like they kept leaning into the sides of it. Then they would try pulling the tent, and somehow they'd actually move us a little bit. During all this chaos, the women outside continued to laugh. I have to admit, I had no idea what to do. This was way beyond anything I'd ever dealt with. I was scared, and I could tell Katie was horrified. Then, in an instant, we heard several footsteps running away. I could hear the footsteps running further into the woods. It was quiet again. For 30 minutes, Katie and I just stared at each other. We didn't say one word. Neither one of us had any idea what just happened, or how to deal with it. After the 30 minutes had passed with no other sounds, I decided I was going to unzip the tent a little bit and just see if we were alone. I slowly unzipped the tent while Katie squeezed the life out of my arm. Standing about 20 feet from the tent was an image that will be burned into my head for my entire life. It was a young woman who looked like she was in her 20s. She was staring right at me, smiling, almost like she was waiting for me to unzip the tent. She had a white dress on, which is crazy because we were in the woods in the middle of the night. She waved at me. I zipped the tent up and sat there speechless. Katie looked over my shoulder when I had the tent unzipped, and she saw the woman as well. Her reaction was the same as mine. For the rest of the night, we sat and held each other. At any moment, we expected that woman to charge the tent. However, nothing happened. At dawn, I slowly unzipped the tent again. She wasn't there anymore. Just like the previous morning, there were rocks scattered all across the camp in strange formations. There were also sticks tied together that made weird symbols. Symbols I didn't recognize, and neither did Kate. Trust me, I know how this sounds, and I can't believe it either. It sounds like something out of a nightmare. We packed up our stuff, made sure to leave all the rocks and sticks there, and we darted out of those woods. We nearly sprinted instead of jogging. It took less than a day for us to make it back to our car. We drove back to our apartment practically in silence. I told her that as soon as I get home, I'm writing the story and sharing it. As much as we love the woods, I'm in no hurry to go back, especially not those woods. I guess the logical answer still is that someone was just messing with us. I don't know why anyone would go through that much effort for a joke. It seems insane. Any other conclusion I come to makes me question everything I know. This felt sinister. I mean, how the hell did she know my name? I hope we can move past this. It makes me think maybe monsters really do exist. I thought about sharing this story several times throughout the years. I've been sitting on it for a while. I don't talk about it a lot. I guess the main reason I don't like talking about it is that I struggle to fully explain what happened. Every year since we graduated high school, my friends Theo and Carlos, along with me, would spend a weekend in the woods. Something we still do today, even though we're all married now. It's a tradition we started. No matter where life takes us, we always get together at least once and spend quality time together. When we were kids, we loved exploring. We'd trek the woods in town where we grew up. One thing we were obsessed with was caves. We found a cave while we were walking through the woods when we were 16. As we got older, we would go further out into the woods searching for caves. That was our thing. Over the years, I think we've only found 3 or 4 caves. As we got older, our trips were more for friendship than exploring. Our little expeditions were safe, and the biggest risk we would have was just wildlife, which, even after all these years, was never an issue for us. One day, while we were together on one of our trips, we stumbled across a cabin that was legitimately in the middle of the woods. We approached the cabin just like every fool in every horror movie that features a rundown cabin in the woods. We were even joking among ourselves that we were in a horror movie cliche. We looked through the windows, and clearly this place was abandoned. It was almost empty inside except for a few pieces of furniture that were destroyed. Carlos wanted to go inside the cabin and check it out, and we didn't disagree. Going inside the cabin may seem like a hell no moment for some, but honestly, it's not that weird. We've seen some crazy things in the woods over the years. For example, one time we found this huge clearing in the woods that had a creepy makeshift village. It had all these small huts, and it was filled with giant mounds of debris and trash everywhere. It was scary at first. We found out after that it was once living quarters for residents of a traveling circus that was in the area for a while, way back in the day. So needless to say, there is weird stuff in the woods. A clearly abandoned cabin is far from something that would send me running. It's just more unexpected than anything else. We loved it when we would find something weird like this. Getting to the bottom of whatever we found was something we all looked forward to. As we walked inside the cabin, I had already started to ask myself questions. First, why was there a cabin so far out in the woods? I should mention that it's a stretch to refer to this as a cabin. It was like a large shed just built with wood. I feel like it's just easier to call it a cabin. The whole building was one room. There was no plumbing, no electricity, and no roads that led to or from it. It felt like the air was dry in there, almost hard to breathe. Carlos started to pick through some of the pieces of the broken furniture to see if anything was salvageable, but it wasn't. There wasn't much to investigate in there, since it was just a big square. While we were standing there talking, we kept hearing a weird sound we couldn't identify right away, which was weird given how small the cabin was. It sounded like something dragging in the dirt, not a typical noise you hear in a cabin or any other house. The sound was coming from underneath us. The cabin didn't have a basement, at least not one we could see, so hearing this noise was strange. I even put my ear to the floor so I could listen, and while I was down there, it was unmistakably a noise coming from under the floor. I got up and started kicking the broken furniture around, looking for a latch or a small door in the floorboards. In the far left corner of the cabin, underneath some dust and debris, was a rusted handle on the ground. I had to open it and see what was under this cabin. I lifted the door, and the odor coming from the dark underneath the cabin almost made me throw up. It just reminded me of rotten meat. I grabbed a bandana from my backpack and wrapped it around my nose. It didn't fix the issue, but it made it slightly more manageable. Before descending the ladder, I tried looking around to see if I could see what was making the noise. It was too dark to see anything, but the noise was louder, and I could say with 100% certainty that the noise was for sure coming from down there. As I went down the ladder, the first thing I noticed was how unnaturally cold it was down there. It was like that cold feeling of being in a basement, but way worse. I used my flashlight and looked around the dark room. The ground was stones, and the only other thing I could see was 2 giant structural beams on each side of the room. Carlos and Theo asked if I saw what was making the noise, and before I told them no, I got a different answer. Limping from behind one of the structural beams was a normal-looking guy. He had a green t-shirt with a pair of jeans. He was clean-shaven with dark hair that was on the messy side. As soon as he limped past the beam, I yelped. It startled me so bad that I couldn't even scream properly. But the man didn't acknowledge me at all. He just kept limping from the left side of the room to the right side. He was dragging his right foot on the ground. That was the sound we heard before finding the dark room. The man didn't seem well, even though he wasn't that old. Not only was he limping and dragging his foot, but he was also breathing heavily. I shouted to the man, asking if he was okay. I could hear Carlos yelling at me to shut up and leave him alone. Theo came halfway down the ladder, saw the man limping, and went right back up. I don't blame him. After I shouted a few times, asking if he was okay, he still didn't even acknowledge my existence. I moved a little closer to him, and I noticed that he was mumbling something under his breath. Whatever he was saying, it was clearly not English, although I'm not a linguistics expert. I was a few feet away from the man, and he stopped limping and stood completely still. He turned just his head to look at me. Then he turned the rest of his body. After that, he didn't move. He wasn't mumbling anymore, and he wasn't breathing heavy either. I started to slowly back away and head back toward the ladder. The entire time, he didn't move a muscle. I grabbed the ladder, and when I did, the man took a step toward me, just one single step, and then he stopped again. Everything about this was terrible. I climbed up the ladder as fast as I could. I told Carlos and Theo we needed to leave. Whoever was down there was not well, and I was pretty sure he could have been dangerous. We looked down the ladder one last time, and standing at the base of the ladder, staring directly up at us, was the man. He wasn't moving, but he did have one hand on the ladder like he was thinking about climbing up. I'll never forget those horrible, lifeless eyes staring directly at us. We all ran out of the cabin. We just kept running. I remember thinking maybe this guy was in trouble and we just left him, but that thought didn't really last long. I can't articulate and explain why this felt wrong, but it just did. We got out of the woods and decided to report the cabin and the man to the local authorities, just in case he was in some kind of trouble. From what I was told, they did investigate the cabin, but they didn't find anybody down in the dark room, or any evidence that would suggest somebody living in that cabin. They even looked at missing person reports to see if anybody was potentially missing, but nobody matched this man's description. Even the police couldn't fully explain why this cabin was all the way out in the woods. I have no idea what we stumbled across that afternoon. It seems like a mistake. Maybe we're the bad guys for breaking into that guy's cabin, although I don't think that's accurate. As much as I would love to know what that man's true intentions were, I'm happy we made it out in time to not find out if they were bad. My gut tells me we came across something evil, but my brain tells me that can't be true. We still get together every year to hike, but we're even more careful now. I promise you this, if we ever stumble across another cabin in the middle of the woods, I'm gonna run as fast as I can in the opposite direction, so I never experience anything like this again.
यार मैं इस कहानी को याद से कहता हूँ स्प्लेंडर बुक है एक भी
वो तो बुद्धड़ होंदा है जे
जिसमें नहीं क्या क्या देखते हैं
और की अंदर के नाम बत्ती हाल में तो लगना कि सस्ता वाला दुगो खान देना चाहिए जो तो ले लेंगे ना
Wait, help!
फोन में 5 मिनट
याद नहीं कराया तू
असल तो पहले ले आकर रख लियो रात ਨੂੰ ਹਾਂਡੀ ਬਣਾ ਲਾਂਗੇ ਫਿਰ ਸ਼ਹਿਰੀ ਵੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ ਹੋਟਲਾਂ ਦਾ ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਵਾਲੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੱਲ ਦੇ ਖਾਦੀ ਕਲਾਸ ਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਜੇ ਨਹੀਂ
की खरी
ਰਾਤ ਦੀ ਖਾਦੀ ਹੋਏ कलेजी साथी गोभी आलू चिंगाने
यश या जलन नहीं है
खरी सी निकल भी गई है या कोई नहीं
Don't give up. Your teammates can still recall you. Please recall me.
इमरान साहब मेरा टेस्टर नहीं
Okay.
मिल रहा है मेरे शंते के अंदर
मेरा भी नहीं मिल रहा,
मेरा भी नहीं मिल रहा
मेरे पास 2
Please
टेस्टर थे,
recall me. Got it.
एक खराब था एक सही था, सही वाला नहीं मिल रहा। मेरा तो मेरे पास है, टूटा हुआ।
Let's go.
किसी की बीवी को फोन करता हूँ
Help. Okay. Fall back. Please recall me.
مدام أنا أنسى 2 أغراض هذا البيت واحد شاكوش
Please recall me.
أوكي
Got it.
متر إيه هي أوكي ما مشكلة يقدر يجي الحين ولا بعد شوية
Enemies ahead.
أوكي
شكرا.
أي معلوم سؤال أي معلوم أي يجي الحين
होशियार रहना. Help.
साली ने बताया भी तो भी ज़हन में नहीं बनी 2 चीज़ें इसके पास है
Fall back. Please recall me.
और पहले भी 1 मीटर कह रही थी कि तू पहले भी भूल गया था वो घर में
Please
2
recall me.
मीटर तू भूल गया मेरे घर में और 1 मीटर भूल गया वहाँ पे ले जा मैंने कहा कि यार,
Please recall me.
सबके घर फोन
रिकॉल पर चला जा भाई, रिकॉल पर जा, वो आखिरी रह गया, तू रिकॉल पर जा भाई।
यहाँ पर निकाल पे जा जल्दी मैं जा
ऐसे ऐसे चूतिए बंदे
जा
हैं।
रहा हूँ रिकॉल पे 1 मिनट से 1 मिनट दे सिर्फ मैं जा रहा हूँ अभी जा रहा हूँ रिकॉल पे
होशियार रहना. Excellent work. होशियार रहना.
मैं चोरी
हाँ,
तेल डालूं गरम करूं ऊपर
किसके?
ना ना
की होया तेरी भी तारा शॉट हुई है रे विचों।
I got supplies. Please recall me. Help. Let's go.
रिकॉल कर दे भाई, रिकॉल। हाँ रिकॉल 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 रिकॉल।
I'm recalling a teammate. Shukriya. Shukriya. Thanks. Shukriya.
तेरे चलते तो मैं कद की करने मेरा अपना क्षमता पूरा चोरी हो गया ਸੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਉਹੀ ਨਾ ਹੁਣ ਤੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਸ਼ੰਤੇ ਚ ਸ਼ੈਵਾ ਚੋਰੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੂੰ ਆਪਣਾ ਪੂਰਾ ਕਰ ਦੇ। ਮੈਂ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਾਲਾ ਸ਼ੰਤਾ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕਿਦਾ ਉਹੀ ਤੇ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਸ਼ੰਤਾ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਤੇ ਸ਼ੈਵਾ ਵੀ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਗਾਇਬ ਕਰਦਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦਿਲ ਕਰਦਾ ਚੁਗਦਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦਿਲ ਕਰਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੁਗਦਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਸਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਦੱਸ।
शुक्रिया।
एक मेरे तरीके से नान बना रही है, काली मिर्चें पड़ी हैं मुंह के सामने, ये डालना तो ये सामने मुंह के बड़ी हुई है, सबसे डाल ये है भी ओरिजिनल काली वाली।
Excellent work. I need a scope.
इसका रंग ही बता
बड़ी चंगी है नहीं है विशाल
की
जितनी माशाल्लाह तेरी सही है। चौधरी ये पा के ना चला जा।
क्या क्या कर गया ये? हाँ जुत्ती चेक करना चाहिए। सही है कि देखो चौधरी
रात में जाना है पाजी में तू
कि सोधी दी बरात चे। हाँ सही है
बाजा हम तो ना भी ला
एक तो बाबा वो शाबाश है अपनी
Help! Please recall me.
कितने की गई होनी
अंडे खा के छा गए
अरे चौधरी
बतख दे अंडे खादे नहीं इन्हें ते
सैफ आ जा
मैं नहाउण लगा यार
है चौधरी
हां
कितने की गई होनी
ये 500,000 शुरू कर बंदे सामने
बंदे बाद में भी आए पकड़े जाएंगे ख्याल रखना मैं अब ढूंढ के दूंगा टेंशन ना ले नहीं मिलेंगे
हौला हौला कुव्वत इल्ला